So I figured we would go through the questions that accumulated on that last video, where I said, hey, what theory questions do you have? So let's do theory questions. It's hot. It's good though. Rishi Earl Grey tea. It's quite good. I can't get into coffee for whatever reason, or beer. Either one of them. It's just I every time I taste them, I don't like them. And then somebody says, "Well, yeah, but you should try this." Or coffee drinkers are the worst. Coffee drinkers say, oh, you should try a mocha, whatever, and you can hardly taste the coffee. And that's something that coffee drinkers say. You can hardly taste the coffee. If you don't like the taste of coffee, all you taste is coffee. It's very strong. It's like, there's only a little bit of fecal matter in it. You can hardly taste it. If you're not into the taste of, anyway, sorry. Which is sad because tiramisu could be so great if it were just made out of something different. Matt Henderson texting me. Matt Henderson, Matte. If you haven't checked him out, magnificent musician. Magnificent. Very, very quirky, unique. And he's got an album called the Veneer of Logic. And it's awesome. For a dude who can absolutely burn, it's not at all the album you'd expect. But oh my gosh, the stuff he's working on now. Holy freaking crap. It's ridiculous. It's with this drummer named Morgan Ogren. I don't know, Morgan, if I'm saying your name wrong. Not like you're watching this, but and holy crap, it's a revelation. The two of them together is astonishing. So anyway, okay, first comment from Matt. Circle of Fists would be good for you to talk through. I love your presentation theory. Circle of Fists. Circle of Fists is easy. It has various applications. I think typically when it's taught, it's maybe just for memorizing, how to do key signatures, which is kind of a shame. It has a lot of applications. The ones you'll probably use the most aren't writing key signatures. The applications you'll probably use the most are instantly knowing the 5 chord of whatever key you're in. That's a big one. So the acronym is fat cats go down alleys eating birds, F sharp. I add the F sharp to the end. I've heard people say fat cats go down alleys eating birds. If you add the F sharp to the end, that's important. So the way it works, fat cats, right? If F is your 1, C is your 5. This, by the way, so it works for chords in a key, right? If F is the 1 chord, then C is the 5 chord. But it also works for notes in a chord, right? If F is your root, then C is your 5, right? You start to see how the applications are very interesting. Let's say you're a beginner piano player, and you, like I still am, you go to F. What's your 5? What's the 5 of the chord? Like, what note should your pinky seek out? Or whatever finger. Yeah. So fat cats go down alleys eating birds, F sharp. The notes are accidentals on the notes are reciprocal. So if we're in the key of G flat, so fat cats go down, right? G, D. If G is your 1, then D is your 5, right? Right. Fat cat. So if in the key of F, C is your 5 chord. In the key of C, cats go. G is the 5 chord, right? So in the case of G flat, go down, they're both flat. So G flat is D flat. G sharp is D sharp, right? They're always reciprocal. Another way of thinking of this, if we just talk piano, is that if you're doing roots and 5s on the piano, they'll always be both white or both black, with one exception, and that is any B. If B or B flat, either B, is your root, then the opposite color is your 5. So that's why we say fat cats go down alleys eating birds, F sharp, because the 5 of B is F sharp. The 5 of B flat is F, right? By the way, so much of getting really, really powerful at music theory is taking these abstract distances really between notes and them starting to become something that you can see. Now, one way to do that is, of course, to visualize a fingerboard or keyboard or whatever. But I think it can start to happen on a more abstract level, a level that's removed from any instrument, where you can kind of just see them midair. I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, fat cats go down alleys eating birds. F sharp, right? Accidentals are reciprocal. The only time that they're not, the only time that that one will be flat or natural without the other one being so, is if B is your one or B flat is your one. So, yeah. Okay, Baker, Mabakr, Kar. Other topics: borrowed chords, those transitional chords between. This is going to be a long video. Hopefully that's okay. But we will cut right through everything. Borrowed chords. Okay, so borrowed chords. This is going to presuppose some stuff that maybe, because, in the other 2 videos ago, that was, what is that? Because I think I'm going to name this something different. But since I'm invisible 8, we started talking about how to start to see the chords in a key on the fingerboard, right, by number. And I'm proposing that is the framework in which you will make your greatest progress as a musician. So, big, bold claim. But you should, there's a reason I'm saying such a bold claim, and if you take it pretty seriously and start to think like that, that would be good. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 is major, 2 is minor, 3 is minor, 4 is major, 5 is major, 6 is minor, right? There's a 7 chord here and a 1. And then, of course, they lay out all over the place. There's a 3, there's a 6, there's a 7, a 1, a 2, 3, 4. Right, they're all over the place. You learn to see those numbers on the bottom couple of strings in whatever key you're in. And then you put the appropriate cage shape on it. And then you learn to tweak the appropriate cage shape. Here's my 4 chord. I want it to be major 7, major 6, something weirder. Right? That entire time, every one of those, I'm thinking my parent cage shape. Anyway, borrowing chords. So the Talmanic is a new student. So Talmanic, I'm about to give this away for free. So great student, by the way. I'm about to give this away for free. So if I owe you money from that lesson, please hit me up. I will gladly repay it. He wanted to talk about borrowed chords in the last lesson. So the idea in borrowed chords is, let's say that we're in G. Okay, so a video or 2, maybe it was that same video ago, I talked about how it's better to think of minor key songs as their main chord being called 6, right? In other words, you always are thinking of the relative major, but 6 in the case of a sad song, the 6 is the main chord, right? And I said that's almost always the best way to think of it. This is the one time it's not best to think of it. This time, you want to be able to, so we're in the key of G major. You want to be able to lay out G minor right next to it. It's like 1, was it a 1? And like literally call them 1. Or, I mean, you could also just think, B flat major, and you're borrowing chords from B flat major. Anyway, the idea is, I'm have a song in G major, right, or E minor, same thing, but I'm gonna throw in some chords from G minor. This is the most common example of borrowing. I'm about to show you a couple of different ones. So, let's say. Just writing that song. It sounds like a 70s, sounds like a Burt Bacharach thing. If you've never seen the 20th anniversary edition of Spinal Tap on DVD, the audio commentary, I highly recommend it. There's a very funny Burt Bacharach joke in it. So they're in character the whole time, and they're just commenting on the movie, and it's absolutely brilliant. If you don't have a DVD player anymore, you should get one. Get a PlayStation, get a PS5, and let's play. I've been playing Helldivers. It's killer, really good. Feels like the next generation of shooter game. Like I haven't thought that since the old Modern Warfare came out. Yes, I'm an overgrown child. So, all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, there's my major key, but I'm going to borrow chords from B flat major or G minor. So notice what I did was I borrowed the 4 chord from B flat major, or you could call it the flat 6 chord of G minor. So the Talmanic and I used the example of there's I think it was an F. That's what we figured out. There's an old Mariah Carey song called "Can't Let Go." It's got so much grease on it. I mean, it's just so shiny and slick. We're in the key of F. So 1, 5 chord, flat 7, which is a borrowed chord. Anyway, the chorus is even though I try, I can't. So the idea is I'm borrowing this flat 6, flat 7 to a major 1 chord. I'm borrowing these from F minor or A flat major, the 4 and the 5 in A flat, and going to the what you're expecting it to be, but it's really right. And you may have heard that in other things. Hendrix's national anthem, that's what he plays at the end, like the same 3 chords. There are more or less innumerable examples, but anyway, the most common way of borrowing is you have a major key song. You have a song that's written around the 1 chord, taking chords from the what we call the parallel minor. So we're in the key of F major, take them from F minor. In other words, the key where F minor is the 6. So A flat, right? So experiment with it. If we want to talk about this on an advanced, this is going to be a long video. I'm realizing that now that I'm starting to talk about this stuff. If you wanted to do it on a slightly more advanced stage. So let's say whatever mode you're in. So almost everything I write is based around the 6 chord, right? So like there's this song. Let me find it. Yeah, I can play my own music on what's it called on YouTube. So I can't get flagged. So all right, all the words I know from How to Build a Hole. That's a Ronin Bad Moon, the pink one I used to own. So it's like. Now, something happened there. And I'm going to make it more explicit later. Let's ignore these chords though for now. So like it's basically a 6 chord, E minor. So it's not like we can see above the trees. Something weird there, but when it gets to the chorus, 4. We all waited, but you never 6. Da-da, 5. Da-na-na. I'm a little out of tune here. That right there, something happens there to the listener, right? So we're in E minor. I'm telling you, I'm making you feel like things are helpless. So 4, because everything's stained in this 6 chord. Remind us to talk about this. I have an analogy on how 6s and 1s work. I'll put it in the other series. I'm pretty sure this is going to have a different name. We'll just do these AMAs, theory AMAs. And I guess I get the better part of an hour. These won't be going on Instagram, I guess. Since we just crossed the Instagram limit, 15 minutes. I think that's the Instagram limit. All right, so 4 chord, da-na, everything's sad because you're thinking 6 sounds like home. 5, da-na, major 2 chord, which comes from the next mode up in E Aeolian, right? E Dorian would be the next mode up, and there's a couple of ways. So it's that. So here's my 6. Sorry, 6, right? 7, 1, 2. Main way to invoke that notch up of, oh wait, maybe things aren't so bad, is to make the 2 chord major. Now, if you do this around the 1 chord, if 1 chord's been that major 2 chord, like if it's already a happy song, in other words, I'm basing everything, I've been inundating you with 1 chords instead of 6 chords, then that 2 chord, taking it up a notch, is even brighter, and it doesn't work for what I sing about. My songs aren't about something that would need something quite so bright. But if you're basing things around the 6, if you've got a sad song going, that next notch brighter, it sounds like hope, right? So, we all waited, but you never came. Give a damn. It's all this. Oh, instead of just this, my voicing is. Normally it's in tune. So it's like an A over C sharp, but then I have the 2 on there. And then as soon as, notice what happens there. This is what I was talking about a few videos ago. Whatever video it is, since I'm invisible, number 7. I don't know. It could have been 8. I don't remember. That power that you have using theory, the power that you have, like Danny Elfman. You can listen to Danny Elfman do write stuff, and you're like, oh wow, it's so quirky, blah blah blah, and you just chalk it up to the magic of Danny Elfman, when in reality he's definitely thinking of very tangible theoretical tool of a very tangible theoretical toolkit, music theory toolkit, that this mode makes you feel like whatever, I shouldn't have picked it in that key. The fact that he's writing in Lydian, it makes things quirky, right? All the boop beep beep boop beep 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 boop beep. The staccatos make you feel different than long notes, right? And the more you analyze these things from an emotional standpoint, the more powerful of a writer you'll be. I obsess over this stuff. Oh my gosh. There's a song, I've struggled so mightily to get this one song, You Don't Want What Love Is, to feel heavy and hurt, when in reality it was like this guitar riff. It wanted to just... It was really hard to tone it down. And learning rhythmically, wait a minute, if I do this one thing, there's this one instrument, it was the piano, right? I played the piano with these long diamonds, and it moves at this glacial pace, and it feels heavy all of a sudden. It feels injured. It feels not peppy. In fact, better than feeling not peppy, the drums that this guy Matt Pence played on them, it sounds like aha. And it sounds ironic, and it's even better. It sounds like going about your day pretending everything's okay, and yet things are very injured. And so the irony of the drums it just brought it out. Anyway, I was very happy. Oh my gosh. I worked for 2 years to try to make that song feel heavy. It sucked. Anyway. Nobody hates his own music more than I do. I swear. Man, the reason I actually don't think I'll ever do another album, I'd say that now, and I know possible, but is every decision feels like legacy defining for me, and I do not have fun at all. I hate the process. I hate putting it out and nobody hears it. I hate trying to do it live and it sounding, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it sounds great. It always sounds more like a rock band than I want it to. And plus I just feel like every single moment is going to define my legacy, and it's a pressure cooker and I hate it. And so anyway, okay, so another example, is on that same album. Now this is taking we're still on borrowed chords from the same album. So I thought I could save you. All right, this means 6 on the bandstand. 6, 4, 3. Notice a lot of 6 chords makes you feel sad. What the freak is that? Back to 6 right there. All right, so here's the idea. What key is that? Yeah. So 6, 4, 3, 6, 4, 3, flat 7. That's what happens there. Notice it goes from being sad to feeling hopeless. It feels worse than sad. It feels tragic and done, right? So, and what I'm doing there is I'm borrowing a chord. So in the previous example, I was in Aeolian and borrowing a chord from Dorian, which would be the next mode up, right? In other words, one note is going up. You're going up the circle of fifths. One. Anyway, you don't have to see it like that. I generally don't, but in this example, I'm taking it one down. I'm taking it from Aeolian to Phrygian by giving it a flat 2 chord, or it's flat 2. Basically, if it's 6, then it's a flat 7. If you're a Portishead fan, there's some Portishead stuff that's anyway. If I were doing that based around 1, 4, flat 7, 1. I hate that sound. It works great for other people, right? It's a certain sound, but it sounds like a party to me, right? I'm never singing about a party. I'm singing about how, hey, kids, don't make the same. Anyway, there's borrowing like that where you can use a chord that's best conceived of as being from a different parallel mode, right? So in B minor, borrowing from B Phrygian. We'll talk about modes here in a little bit because I saw that's one of the things. And it can darken things, or you can borrow from one up and it'll brighten things, right? So I think most other examples, here, I'll just give you the examples. Look, let's say you're in a minor key song. So a major 2 or a 6. So here's the 2 chord, right? 4, 5, a sharp 5 that's like half diminished can have that same effect. Because they both have this note, and that's the note that's Dorian, right? The difference between Aeolian and Dorian is that note. There's Aeolian, Dorian, right? And notice, because normally that 2 would be minor. And that's what makes it major, right? But also, it can be half diminished. This is not a common way to do it right here. So you should do this one, right? That's the way you should think as an artist, right? Is everybody's doing this thing, do the other thing, do something else. I am embarrassed that last song sounds like They're There by Radiohead. I hate that. I freaking hate that. What's funny is, I can't play it for you. There's a song, that song, the writing of I Thought I Could Save You started off as me writing some sort of trying to copy, and this won't make any sense when you hear it, but trying to copy the feel as an instrumental, actually. I was writing an instrumental, but the melody and the chords come from me trying to cop a song by a band called Aloha called Moonless March. Great song. There's some real gold on that album, too. And there's a song called All the Wars by Aloha that's really, really good. The lyrics are cool as crap. Very cool. And they only get better as it goes. It's like the third verse is the most magnificent, and then the bridge is absolutely a triumph. So, it started with me trying to not copy, but write something around the drum beat of this song, Moonless March, which is way faster. I started slowing it down, blah, 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 and then I made my demo. A fatal mistake was using the intro drums to There by Radiohead to make my demo. All the while thinking, man, the chord progression isn't completely unlike this. But there's a tonality to those toms or whatever that they're playing on that intro. It's like it needs to be in B minor, so I made all the demo around B minor, and which means it's in the same key as the Radiohead song, blah blah blah, and then we started with a drum intro. It's like, in retrospect, it's like, man, I should have done something different. That's I feel like the one song where you can point to it and say, oh, it looks like you were trying to copy a song. Besides on the newer album, where I'm intentionally doing homage to Talk Talk's Newgrass, Phosphorus Kids. That's intended for you to notice that. So, but anyway, so do the thing that other artists aren't doing. That's your highest calling as an artist, besides world domination. So borrowing, yeah. So the really effective ones, the ones I tend to use are a flat 7, but only when I've been writing a song around a 6. Flat 7 for darker, major 2 for minor, for brighter. Sorry. Yeah. All right. Sorry. Well, that one took a while. Secondary dominance. You said second something. Dyad 6. Secondary dominance. There's an old video I made for this private Facebook group. It's something like it's an hour-long video where I just talk theory. I don't remember what it's called, but go look there. And if you still have questions, ask it in the comments of this video. But that I do jibber jabber about secondary dominance there. Bobby Culpepper. We also remember, but when you get into harmonic and melodic minor, it seems like people have all this down. Yeah, I read this last night. Simpler scale degree. Okay. How do you get to where you can play it freely? By the way, all these questions. Sorry, I should just repeat the question. All right, harmonic and melodic minor. How do you get to where they're under your fingers? Right. Most people describe them as like a major, like melodic minor is a major scale, but with a flat 3, and so that's what they're thinking. Here's the thing: what they're really describing is two different processes. Thinking of melodic minor as major but with a flat 3 is a fine way of thinking of it, but you cannot do that. You can't do that calculation at the speed that you need while you're actually playing. So that's a fine way to think of it, to get you to maybe write it out in 5 different shapes. But at that point, your fingers just need to get them learned, right? It's not enough to here, let me switch over to electric. It's not enough to try to do those calculations in the moment. So you really do need to just write it out and then get them under your fingers. You could start, so melodic minor, start by asking yourself, what are you going to use them for? Because I think most people wouldn't. My piece of crap, not the guitar, my cable. I got another one right here. But start by asking, what are you going to use melodic minor for? Because I think most people don't actually ever end up using them. But there are very cool uses for them. I'm going to play this. There are very cool uses for it. And with that, recognizing those uses might actually help you decide what to do with them. So check this out. The coolest use of melodic minor is up a fret from an altered chord. So let's say we're in G minor. So here, watch this. Freddie Green style. So now I don't have to that D7 doesn't actually have to happen for me to imply that it's happening. Apparently my picking sucks all of a sudden. Man, I suck today. So, the idea is I'm implying something that's not there. But basically, here's what I would do. Start with just a couple of shapes of melodic minor. The two that you're most likely to use are, let's say, are these two, I would say, is, or. By the way, when someone says melodic minor is, 1, 2, flat, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 going up, but then on the way down it's natural minor. Just if that sounds idiotic to you, good. It is idiotic. Ignore it. If it were done for whatever historical reason, cool. It has no application to anything that you need to do in contemporary music. Also, beware of stories about the church outlawed, blah, blah, blah. They're basically all crap, to my knowledge. Most stories like that are crap, by the way. All right, so this shape, I'm saying that one because it juxtaposes with this very well. You're just doing your minor pentatonic stuff. So learning to go back and forth between those. Right? That's kind of cool, right? And the other one that you should learn is just this. The one I played just a while ago. I think I'm getting them out of order. Couple of reasons, let's say you might use it, like, let's say you're here. Thinking like sort of position 4 pentatonic. What? I played a wrong note back there, but you could imply that this 5 chord is there. But real quick. So the most common use of melodic minor is up a half step from an altered dominant chord. Altered we talked about in the number 9 video. But you could also use that. Another mode that you might use is just playing it just normally. Let's say it's minor 7. Back to this. So. Right? What I'm doing there is just going back and forth from just playing minor or Dorian or whatever, whichever one, over that G minor 7, and playing melodic minor, like G melodic minor, even though it doesn't fit the chord. Notice it's got a 6 and a 7, but this has a flat 7. For some reason, it sounds fine. So I would just start by memorizing these two positions, that one, and then in a different context, this one, basically melodic minor starting right there. So, but ultimately, if you're really concerned about knowing melodic minor or harmonic minor everywhere, you just write them out as 5 different positions, and you got to teach your fingers that. And for your fingers to know something to the level that we're talking about, it's not enough to be mentally altering a shape that you already know, so because that alteration can't happen quickly. Joan Bull, thanks so much for this. Modes, I don't understand modes. Okay, modes are the most overrated topic in all of guitar talk. The guitar community has so profoundly overrated the significance of modes. They talk as if you're playing over a song and you just have your pick of which mode you want to play, and that's just not true. Well, first of all, okay, most people misunderstand modes because they think whatever note the scale position starts on is what mode it is, and that is laughably false. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous notion. That same video that I mentioned earlier, it's an hour long, whatever it's called, theory, all the theory, something like that. That video, I talk a decent amount about this. And I think in that video, I talk about ALIDPLuMA. ALIDPL and a little UMA. ALIDPLuMA. Go to that. Check that out. But speaking of the topic as being overrated, okay. You don't just come to a musical situation generally and have your pick of what mode you're going to play. Typically, it's prescribed by the chords, and if you go playing most any other mode, it's just going to sound bad. You just play in the key that you're given, and every position is the same mode. So if we say, so the major scale is Ionian, and the song is just going along. Every position I'm playing in is B flat Ionian. Every single position. The reason it's Ionian is because this chord progression says this is the home chord. This is what counts as resolution. The chord progression itself is saying that this is the main chord, and that's what determines what mode you're playing. The other video probably explains this better and takes more time, so please go over to that one. Consider this one an addendum to that one, but there are exceptions. Some songs are inherently modal. Here are basically the only two groups who routinely write things like that. Shred guitar players from the 80s. Or maybe, I don't know, the guitar scene now, there's probably plenty of people who write heavily modally, right? And basically where something other than the 6 or the 1 is the main chord of the song. That's really what we're getting to. Something other than the 6 or the 1, or is the main chord of at least a section of the song. So whatever is going on in the guitar world right now, most of what I hear, it's a little corny out there these days, with some very, very notable exceptions. There are some magnificent musicians, and a lot of cheese, a whole lot of cheese. But yeah, if you go to, Satriani and Vai, those guys would write a lot of cool, very nice modal stuff, right? But you didn't really see that in most other music, and the exception would be modal jazz. So a lot of jazz after the 60s, right? So Wayne Shorter, C Dorian. A lot of songs are in Dorian anyway, like funk has tons. So that's like where your 2 chord is your main chord. By the way, melodic minor, there's a use for it. Notice these chords don't have anything to, they don't coexist in a key. And then these chords don't coexist in any key. It's just, now here's a chord and you need your own scale for this one, and now here's another one, here's another one, and you keep having to change scales for each one. People who write like that, they will write around modal sounds, and you really need to know your modes for that stuff. But if you're playing country, pop, blah, 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 most everything else, it's just a very overrated topic. And more importantly, it's more a writing tool. If you're a writer and you want to write something that's sad but not too sad, you might do Dorian. If you want to write something happy but not too happy, you might write something around Mixolydian, right? If you want to write something that's super dark, you might write around, go back to Dorian. You're writing around the 2 chord, right? The 2 chord is your main chord. Tons and tons and tons of funk songs that are like that. 2 to 5, 2 to 5. That's not to say I would call them 2 to 5 all the time. Anyway, I might even refer to that as 1 to 4, but anyway, in the case of Dorian, anyway, I don't. A lot of songs. There's a lot of. Notice we hear this as the main chord right now. It's the 5. 5, 4, 1. By the way, in Mixolydian, that's a Mixolydian song. I'm riding around the 5 chord, right? It's happy, but it's not too happy, right? Sweet Home Alabama. A billion songs are in, but the jam band songs, holy crap! There's so many Mixolydian songs. Like just tons of that. Blah. I want nothing to do with it. Sorry. I know I'm stepping on some toes here, but blah. I hate that style. Anyway, right, tequila, right? That's 5 to 4, 5 to 4, 5 to 4, right? Mixolydian seems to be the only mode you can write in and get a 1 in there, and the 1 doesn't take over for the listener. Like the 1 doesn't automatically sound like the main chord from there. Anyway, very interesting. So modes are mainly a writing tool. But really quick, if you want to know all your modes everywhere, ALIDPLuMA. Watch this. ALIDPLM. ALIDPLM. Notice I had to add a U to this acronym just to make it something memorable. ALIDPLuMA. Aeolian, Locrian. There's 2 L's, so watch out for that. Aeolian, Locrian, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. Now, let's say you need F Mixolydian. You find the M dot, put it on F, and now all your positions, like I call this position 1. This right now is F Mixolydian, assuming that the song itself, the chord progression, is demarcating that F as the main chord. Like you're in Fish or whoever. Sorry, I'm sure they're cooler than that, you know. But yeah, this position, the next position, they're all F Mixolydian in that situation. Let's say you need G flat Phrygian, right? So I find the P, Phrygian, and I put it on G flat, right? Now this whole thing. So G flat, and this is ALIDP. Let's say I go to this next position. Next position. Notice they're all the same. They're all the same. They're all the same mode, right? That's how you know every mode and every key really fast. ALIDPLuMA. Not so if you find some book aside from, all right, so Noel Johnston, a devious, terrible human being, my best friend. He has a book called Voicing Modes, and it's if you wanted to go to Mars with this, if you wanted to take a topic that, anyway, it is possible to delve very deeply into modes, but he's doing modes of a lot of different parent scales. Like the previous commenter had talked about melodic minor, harmonic minor. He gets into all the modes and what the possibilities are, especially writing possibilities with those, but also with other parent scales that are haven't even, that most people never even think about. So but the way you know all the modes and all the keys is just learn your basic minor scale everywhere, and then add ALIDPLuMA, ALIDPLM, right? So whatever Dorian you need, bam. Whatever Locrian you need, you probably won't, bam. The only Locrian song I know, and they don't even use a chord, it's just going off the bass line, is Army of Me by Bjork. Just because that it's like that's a kind of demarcates Phrygian. But then they get to the chorus and they don't even use any chords. So, yeah, amazing song, heaviest song I've ever heard. So modes are overrated, but that's how you do them really fast. So, yeah. Mean Mud. His name's Troy. I've known this guy for a while. Almshouse was a band he was in, and wonderful band. So I highly recommend checking out Almshouse. Great player, great tone, great everything. I missed it the first go round, but I think you said it later. Add 2 versus 9 is where there's not. Okay, on to the. Okay, so yes, all right. So oh wait, sorry, I should read it. Sorry, I missed it the first go round, but I think you said it later. Add 2 versus, so let's say G add 2 versus G9. G add 2 versus G add. All right, real quick. Technically, anybody would know what you meant by add 2, but technically, add 2 isn't really a chord. It would be G add 9 or G2. Those are synonyms. One of them shouldn't exist, by the way. I think G2 shouldn't be a name, because there's no point in having synonyms on this stuff. It only makes it harder to learn. But G add 9 versus 9. So G9 versus G add 9 is whether or not there's a 7th. That's right. So think of it on to the 11 and 13. I thought this was dependent on the necessity of only having the 7th involved. I'm not totally sure I understand the question, but let's clarify whatever we can, especially since this is the last question. So G add 9 would be like a triad with a 2 added to it. I mean, just a 2. But notice it's not like a G major 9 is root 3 5 7 9, and notice it's got all the notes going up, right? G add 9 would just be root 3 5, and then it would skip that 7 and go straight to 9, right? Let's say we have G add 13. That's still root 3 5 13. It doesn't have a 11, it doesn't have a 9, it doesn't have a 7, right? A G major 13 versus G add 13 would be root 3 5 7 9 11, probably sharp 11, or don't play it, and 13. It would have all the notes. So technically you wouldn't play them all, but so yes, an add chord is always a triad plus whatever extension you name, no matter if it's 13, 11, or 9. But no, there's no 7, right? So it's root 3 5. Here would be a 7, 9, 11, 13, right? So add 13, add 11, add 9. But major 9 would be root 3 5. It would be a major 7 chord with the 9. Major 11, notice it's accumulating. Major 13, notice it's accumulating. My pinky's not supposed to be doing anything there, but It's got all the notes, right? Not that you would play them all. You can play any of them you want, but for it to be major 13, technically it's got a 7, and it technically has the lower extensions, but you don't need them. But yes, it has the 7 in it. And an add chord does not have the 7, and it doesn't have the lower extensions. Make sense? There is one chord that, again, this name shouldn't exist because it only breeds confusion, but you'll see it in the old jazz books. In fact, ironically, in that video where I'm saying all the chords that exist, I'm listing them all. Remember, 3 categories, 3 words. 3 categories, 3 words. Triad, 7th chords, extensions, add, alt, sus, right? Where I name all the chords that exist, I played a 6-9. It's what it's usually called, and the name does not follow the naming rules. So if you see in the old jazz reel book G6-9, you have to treat that like it's named poorly, because it is named poorly. It defies all of the rules that normally hold in naming. It should be called a G add 9 add 13, or unfortunately, again, any of the add chords have synonyms. It could be called a G2 6, I guess is how you'd say it, like G2, 6. It's stupid, but G add 9 add 13 would really be the right name. So but again, when you say add, you always use the higher name of the extension. So I said a 9 is a 2, a 11 is a 4, a 13 is a 6. They are different as chord names. So G2 is different than G9, but but even though the 2 and the 9 considered as a note are exactly the same, right? So a 9 is a 2, but in chord names, G2 is different than G9. Good quiz to give yourself. Tell me the differences between any 2 of these chords. So G2, G sus 2, G add 9, G9. Yeah, that's a good. I'm probably leaving off one. Yeah, but there are 2 of those are actually the same, but there are subtle differences between them, and you should know them. So, all right. So I mentioned that in video number 9, where I say here's all the chords that exist. I mentioned, I realize telling you 3 categories in 3 terms, it's a great organizational tool. Like once you see it, it's like, okay, there's a fairly small number of things to learn here, right? And that's all the chords, and I'll never be intimidated by a chord name ever again. When somebody says G major 13, sharp 11, flat 9, it's, first of all, don't recoil in horror from that. Usually the names of the chords are in the order you should think of. G major 7 or G major 13. So you're just thinking, all right, it's a major 7, find a 13. You can have a 9 if you want, blah, blah, blah. Sharp 11, find a sharp 11, right, which is a sharp 4. So if you got a 5 somewhere, bump it down to that sharp 4. Remember, 3 and 4, 7 and 1, 3 and 4, 7 and 1, 3 and 4, 7 and 1. And then flat 9, right? So just take it in order, and the worst thing you can do in the face of a chord name is to panic, especially when you have been given, since that last video, all of the tools to interpret any one of them, right? But you'll get good at it, not just by knowing it, by me saying, here's how to think of it. It's 3 and 3. That doesn't make you good at it. You get good at it by having your hands on it and having to think through these things. Though keeping in mind holding a shape and having to name it, remember, that's a fool's game. That there's you're holding some random shape and you have to name it. There are always multiple names that can go there. That breeds arguments between guitar players, and it's all for naught. So do this. If we could make this a normal thing, if you've got theory things, or if I failed to be adequately clear on something, under this video, ask whatever theory question you want, or whatever. writing, production, whatever question you want. We'll see if we can just burn right through it in a pithy way. I hate that word. It just sounds so stupid. But in a concise way that maybe sheds some clarity on something that's these things are routinely presented in rather confusing ways, and they're routinely sold in books that are that big, which need not be any bigger than a sheet of paper, one sheet of paper. Notice when I listed all the chords that exist as 3 categories, 3 terms, that could be written on one side of one sheet of paper. That's chord theory. All of chord theory on one side of one sheet of paper. Why? It's no wonder that people don't understand this when the only resources available on it are these giant books, right? And anyway, that rant could go on for a while. But anyway, whatever new questions you have, anything I owe you clarification on, just mention it in the comments, and I'll do another one of these. And if you have a cool name for this, I know AMA is taken, but if you have a cool name, so yeah. If I'm not adept at running socials and doing hashtaggery and things like that. If you see something I'm chronically doing that's stupid and is inhibiting the growth of the page or whatever, I mean, and also screw the growth of the page. If it's just the 19 of us, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine, whatever. So, but even if somebody wants to run the page for me, that'd be great. I hate doing this. I like doing these videos, strangely enough, and that shocks me. But worrying about if I've formatted things correctly and the algorithm and stuff like that. So I don't want to do that. But anyway, main thing is, in the comments below, ask whatever questions you want, and I'll do another video maybe next week, and we'll go through those. So especially theory stuff. See ya.